Star Wars The Bad Batch just revealed a major Rogue One connection. The galaxy far, far away continues to stay close to our hearts in a brand new episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch. The third episode replacements of the Disney Plus animated series continues to deepen the relationships between those good boys of Clone Force 99 and their newest member, Omega.
What?
And it also gives us a glimpse at some of the biggest changes being implemented by the newly minted Galactic Empire. In doing so, the series also reveals a massive Rogue One connection that has major implications for the future of the galaxy far, far away. And if you prefer to read all about it, Amy Ratcliffe has you covered over on Nerdist.com, which I will link to in the description below. However, in order to talk about this in detail, we need to spoil the episode. So if you haven't watched episode 3 of The Bad Batch yet, make sure you abandon ship now before something spooky happens.
What was that?
The third episode of The Bad Batch, Replacements, gives us major horror movie vibes as our heroes must contend with an Ordo Moondragon, and it warms our hearts by the episode's end. But what's truly chilling is everything that happens halfway across the galaxy with the Bad Batch's missing member, Crosshair, who is currently in the throes of Imperial control thanks to his dialed-up inhibitor chip. Replacements deals with an issue that was introduced in the very first episode of The Bad Batch, one that we all knew was coming, but maybe not so soon: the replacement of the clone army with conscripted soldiers. Now this is extra brutal because the Empire probably could not have launched such a successful coup without the clone army and their inhibitor chips to execute Order 66 and eliminate all those pesky Jedi in the first place. But hey, that's Sheev Palpatine for you. Real cool Senate over there.
Do it.
While previously Tarkin indicated that the Kamino and cloning program was just too cost prohibitive for the Empire to continue with, we now have a better understanding of why exactly the Empire wants to replace their elite soldiers with normie meatbags that can't hit the broadside of a bantha if they tried. The answer is something called Project War Mantle, which Tarkin asks Vice Admiral Rampart for an update on while they're observing Crosshair's medical exams on Kamino. Now, Rampart, if you recall, is the mastermind behind the citizen tracking chain code program that we saw last episode. Project War Mantle was briefly alluded to first in Rogue One as one of the myriad Imperial projects and plans that Jyn Erso discovered inside the Imperial security complex on Scarif Citadel Tower, and it was mentioned again by name in the Rogue One novelization. She spoke sternly, demanding Cassian's attention as she read from the screen. Project codenames Stellar Sphere, Mark Omega, Pax Aurora. Were all of them weapons like the Death Star designed for terror and genocide? Had her father known about the others? She couldn't afford to think about it. There were too many horrors down that road. War Mantle, Cluster Prism, Black Saber. In The Bad Batch, though, we officially learn that War Mantle is the code name given to the Empire's push to replace their clone troopers with conscripted soldiers instead. They're opting to inspire loyalty through fanatical dedication rather than just copy-pasting Jango Fett's increasingly degrading DNA. After all, as we know from Rogue One, Tarkin's biggest initiative is also his most expensive: building a moon-sized space station with a planet-destroying laser that will continue to be the crux of Imperial plans for at least 4 movies to come.
We call it the Death Star.
The Death Star.
The Death Star.
The Death Star.
It's another Death Star.
I wish that were the case, Major.
While the Empire is definitely interested in slashing budgets to finance their totalitarian tactics, they're also trying to squeeze every last ounce of usefulness out of their clones before they unceremoniously shove them into the trash compactor of history. Crosshair, or CT-9904 as they call him, is tasked with leading an elite squad of conscripted soldiers to Onderon to wipe out Saw Gerrera and his rebel forces, a job which Clone Force 99 refused to finish in the series premiere. Rampart's master plan is to have highly skilled clones like Crosshair train their human conscripted soldiers so they can impart a lifetime of combat training and battle experience into these former farm boys who joined the Empire for the promise of a better life. After all, as we hear one of the elite squad members say,
"With the Empire, I get paid, I get fed, and I have a roof over my head. That's more than the Republic ever did for me."
Now this is important because not only are these the very first non-clone stormtroopers we've seen in the galaxy far, far away, it's part of how the Empire uses propaganda and fear to control everyday people. By promising them security and order, they strip people of their identity and mold them into instruments of terror to help wage their campaign of fear across the galaxy. It's a point that's really hammered home and calls to mind parallels from conflicts like World War II and the Vietnam War, when Crosshair executes prisoners of war and orders the elite squad to murder civilians in cold blood under the auspices of following orders. In this fascist war machine, you either do as you're told or you're shot on sight, and that's exactly what happens to one of the elite squad members who talks a big game previously about how regular soldiers will replace clones like Crosshair. And this is the kind of loyalty that Palpatine, Tarkin, and Rampart expect, the kind that Crosshair exudes. And sadly, it's what the rest of the Elite Squad demonstrate after they're frightened into doing so to save their own hides on Onderon. This is the beginning of a systemic cruelty that will pervade the Empire and its stormtroopers in particular for the remainder of the series as we know it. We see them justify countless war crimes, genocides, and other atrocities in the name of securing Imperial rule. And sadly for Crosshair and the rest of the Bad Batch, that dead soldier is right. Their time is coming to an end, and they are being made to train their replacements, which is just brutal. Because even though the Empire's resources are seemingly limitless, it's cheaper and more effective for them to enlist people that can't properly use doorways than to continue producing elite clones on Kamino. Still, as we see during this episode, that isn't stopping Lama Su and Nala Se from trying to create another elite clone model to succeed the Jango Fett line to secure their place in the new Imperial hierarchy. Although having the benefit of knowing what exactly comes down the line in the future of the galaxy far, far away, we know their plan likely won't come to pass exactly how they envision it. But if we've learned anything from the Star Wars animated series, it's that they can continue to surprise us with new and enduring revelations about existing canon long after said canon is established. Our biggest questions are, what form will this new super clone take? Whose DNA specifically are they going to use for it? Our best guess is Omega or another member of the Bad Batch, but currently we're leaning more towards Omega because of the obvious symbolism in her name and the repeated references to the fact that she is a new enhanced female clone, which stands in marked contrast to all the other clones we've seen thus far. We're also a little bit worried about Wrecker because although he melted our hearts by making Omega her very own room, his recurring headaches this episode had us worrying about his inhibitor chip and if he could perhaps be succumbing belatedly to Imperial programming like Crosshair. Only time will tell for certain, but please don't let anything bad happen to this lovable oaf with a heart of gold and an appetite the size of a Star Destroyer. I beg of you.
Hit me again!
Anyway, folks, there you have it. That is how the Bad Batch continues to plumb the depths of canon to create new connections to existing lore and shed new light on secret Imperial projects from Rogue One. Now, we'll keep you up to date on all things the Bad Batch and other Star Wars goodness over on Nerdist.com, but in the meantime, tell us, what did you think about this episode? What other aspects of Star Wars lore do you hope to see the Bad Batch explore? And who do you think the Kaminoans are actually after?
It's me, Omega.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.